right, welcome back to Gambling Chronicles. We got episode number 9. It's going to be part 5 in the final chapter of the complete, incomplete book of being involved in a profitable betting group. And once again, it's always incomplete because we're learning shit every day and we don't have all the answers. Nobody out there does. I have a lot of them, but there's a lot I don't. I'll share what I can. And first thing I want to get to is, as far as this getting on YouTube or, Apple or whatever, goals by the end of the month, maybe get some pretty podcast equipment in here, little studio. Maybe I'll rip some guests at some point. Also, the other thing I wanted to get to, anyone that's sent me a DM, if I haven't replied, shoot it out again or message me any which way which we communicate, because while I think I got to all that stuff, sometimes some slip through the cracks. I didn't plan on using this podcast to go at it with touts, etc. But ever since these elf spaces started, we've had to throw in some anti-tout stuff. Not at elf, but, there's just a lot of grifters and con men out there. And today's segment of Fuck Touts is going to be Fuck Fezzik. So for those of you who don't know, who maybe don't know who Fezzik is, who is Steve Fezzik? Now, Steve Fezzik is a tout who sells picks. By all accounts, he was a solid pro, early 2000s to mid 2000s. And then, when he hit those 2 super contests in 2008, 2009, that's probably the time he started to lose his edge in gambling. So for him, it was the perfect storm. He hits back-to-back in these super contests, and then he goes tout. Now, the super contests back then, nothing like today. I mean, there's 300 entries. Still an impressive feat to go back-to-back, but I mean, you're talking about a couple $100K prize pool. Half that gets taken away. You're left with $100K or whatever after taxes, whatever is going on there. Not a ton of money, but for someone that wants to make money selling picks, this is something great for someone who's a tout. You can always just go back and say, hey, I won the fucking contest in 2008 and 2009, which in itself has skill, but not a lot of skill with everyday betting, being in the trenches, betting sides and totals or whatever it is every day. 2 totally different skills. To put this into perspective, if you remember the early TV poker pros, there were guys winning back-to-back tournaments or, a couple bracelets every World Series. And all these guys had all kinds of stuff they were selling, whether it be training courses, books, whatever. They sold a bunch of bullshit, and a lot of people bought their stuff because nobody knew any better. So until these guys faded into irrelevance, which pretty much all of them did, and you could even make an argument that the TV pros that are still around now aren't around because they have an edge. It's because of their marketing and all the money they made from marketing and all the sponsorships they got. If you look at maybe the top 3 to 5 guys that are still on the map in poker, it might not, they may be skillful guys, but the amount of money they sucked in sponsorships, etc., may have been what kept them around. And that's what keeps a lot of touts like Steve Fezzik around, is because they just keep churning this stuff. And the difference with poker and selling poker content and selling sports content is, with poker, you can see the results. All the tournaments, you can see, how people are doing. And if somebody's not doing well and they're not putting out good content, you're like, wait a minute, this guy sucks. He doesn't even play. Or they're playing in cash games, and you can see who plays cash games, whether it be online or whether, they're playing in casinos. And if they're playing over their head, they usually lose. Their content goes to shit. And the bottom line is, younger people get smarter, build better tools, and it's no different in the sports betting industry. But the difference is, in the sports betting industry, somebody can somebody can just sell off smoke and mirrors for a long time. All they have to do is get people to believe them. You do podcasts every day. You do, all kinds of YouTube videos, this show, that show. You just link together with a bunch of other guys that just want to sell that can't win. And if they can, it's very little. And if they give that information away, by the time they give it away, it's probably not good anymore. So that's how a lot of these guys get by selling sports picks. Now, I once won an MTT with 10,000 entries in it, with all the top pros, etc. It was a small buy-in, but this was in 2008. So I won a poker tournament in 2008 with, 10,000 guys. The next night I finished 10th in the same tournament. But to my admission, that doesn't qualify me to give advice in 2025 on how to win at poker, because things change, the games change. There's guys in the poker trenches. I'm not in there anymore. Just like a guy like Fezzik, he's not in the trenches every day betting. He's just in the trenches trying to give away picks and get people to buy his picks. So, let me see here. I got some notes here I got to get to, so bear with me. I got a lot of notes today. After he won these super contests in 2008 and 2009, he branded himself the best NFL handicapper on earth. Now, come on now. Billy Walters was still out there grinding hard in 2008 to 2009, let alone him. There's a lot of other guys that are better, that were and still are today, better handicappers than Fezzik, if you would call him a handicapper. We'll get to that too. So anyhow, he uses these wins in these super contests, and he goes on to sell picks for LVA Sports from 2009 to 2012. Now, these were all tracked. All these were tracked, and he lost 3 out of his first 4 years selling picks. So the self-proclaimed best NFL handicapper on earth, his first 4 years selling picks loses 3 out of 4. Those are facts. Those were all tracked by Computer Bob. So that just goes to show you, we're talking about 2009 to 2012. Now, I wasn't a pro in the sports betting space at this time, but somebody who, and I don't think Fezzik's a dumb guy, but if somebody just put their energy into learning how to win and continuing to evolve, you don't have to sell picks and you just keep winning. But from all accounts, from the sources that I've talked to, he was a winner in the early to mid 2000s and then fell off the map. Hit the lightning bottle, the 2 super contests, and then just started selling. So he's 4 years there. He loses 3 out of 4 years. And then, you go from, now we're up to 2012. From 2012 until today, I don't know anybody that has bought his package. I've never seen anyone besides burner accounts that are very clearly there to prop him up or to support him in some sort of way, say that he's helped them in any which way at all. I know of 0 pros who subscribe to his packages. And, I work in the trenches day in and day out most of the year, less in the off season. And the off season for me is when football is over. None of these guys work with him. So that just tells you right there, none of the top guys in this industry that are winning, that are the winning bettors, that are the best bettors, that, I'm rubbing elbows with on day-to-day basis, none of them work with him. So that's one thing right there. Now, do I work with everybody? No, but I work with enough guys to know, and I've been doing this now solid 10 years, day in and day out, that I would know. So, anyhow, let's move on here. So this past year, he gets crushed on his NFL package. Now, what does he do when he gets crushed on a season NFL package? Now, he offers a free dinner. Now, these people could be from around the world. These people could be in the country. Hey, come to Vegas. I'll buy you a free dinner. And, obviously those are coming with comp. So it's not even money coming out of his pocket. which is whatever. I mean, he's offering the free dinner. That's cool. But the bottom line is, I just highlighted 3 of his first 4 years and last year. That's 4 out of 5 years. And all in between, I didn't get into all that stuff, but usually it's the same with all these touts. You know, they might have a good year here, a good year here, but 3 out of his first 4 and last year, lost, got crushed. To his own admission, when he was on a Circles Off episode where, you know, Johnny cooked him up and down. Go to the Circles Off podcast or find Circles Off on Twitter and listen to this podcast. This podcast was phenomenal. I didn't even have to go back and reference any of this because I remember it all. I mean, on there, you know, he was going up and down on, you know, how he can help Johnny out, and, you know, Johnny cooked him pretty hard. Great episode. And he's just going up and down how he can help Johnny with his NFL stuff in the fall and this and that. And like, Johnny is light years better handicapper, or, you know, better than Fezzik could ever dream of being. I mean, I know Johnny a little bit, but if I had to take a solid guess of being in this space now for 10 years, you know, networking with a lot of different people, I'd venture to guess Johnny's never lost in an NFL season, let alone, you know, I just mentioned this guy. 4 out of these 5 years I'm referencing got crushed. Johnny's probably never had a losing month. Maybe break even, because, again, he's attacking the markets that are the prop markets, which are probably the best markets to be in the last 5 years. But you have dinosaurs like this guy, Fezzik, who have to survive off of selling picks. That's the only way they can win. And that is a fact. I'm not making that up. He said it himself when he was on this Circles Off episode. Johnny brought up the fact that this guy, you know, this guy should be a millionaire many times over. If he wins as much as he said he does, or if he's as smart as he says he is, you know, the best NFL handicapper in the world, well, Circa's taken, you know, 100K, 200. I've seen 250K slips from pro bettors on Sundays. Now, even if you're smashing the openers, you got all offshore, you can get down quietly, network, you can get down a lot. But this guy admitted on Circles Off that life is expensive and it helps take care of all of his bills. So right there, that's a self-admission that I can't win enough money to pay the bills, so I have to sell picks. And, you know, if I had a bad NFL football season, like just one season, like he had this past season, every partner I have that was, you know, taking whatever props or whatever I send them, I would be fired. You know what I mean? I would be fired. But the thing is, when you sell picks, you know, somebody can fire you, but then you just have to sell the con to somebody else. And that's what he does. And that's what a lot of these groups do. They just got to keep finding ways and new terms. You know, they say they're 6-1 in their last 7 when they're really 6-2 in their last 8. You know, that's a big one. You know, they got to come up with all these things, and a lot of attacking other pros, which I'm going to get to try and put themselves in a better light and make themselves sound smarter. So, you know, oftentimes too, I see, you know, he'll release picks, which I don't see, but I see a guy like Brad Powers always commenting, saying the market moved 2 points against you. Is it still good to bet? And this isn't like once or twice. I've seen this happen a dozen plus times. You know, he releases a pick to his clients, and then all of a sudden, you know, it goes 3 points the other way. Like, you know, if people were giving me accounts and that was the stuff that was going in there, and we're getting blown off the line that often, I mean, that is very, very rare for a top handicapper to happen. But to have it happen as much as it happens to him just shows he is not a top handicapper. You know, another big telltale sign is he plays every market year round. The top handicappers don't do that. The top handicappers and the top betting groups in the world, they have multiple people who specialize in each area where, you know, they're going to crush whatever market it is. Like for me, you know, all right, I crush football props. That's what I do. I can't crush NASCAR. So I know a guy who is returning whatever, 15% on NASCAR. I don't crush college basketball, but I have a guy who beats every college basketball closing line by 3 points. You get what I'm saying? I could say this for every sport right now. Tennis, I know a guy who crushes every major up and down every year. Golf, same thing. I have guys in golf. I do a little golf handicapping. I beat that. I have a pretty good ROI there. But for me, for anyone to think that they can, do this year round in all these different major market sports, they just can't fucking do it. It's impossible. There's just no way. And then be able to bet the stuff yourself and give the picks away and for them to be profitable, it's just not fucking possible. There's just no way. If somebody was good enough and has been doing this, and they claim they've been a pro bettor going on, we're talking, 2000, I don't know how many years before that, but we're talking 25 years since 2000. You haven't won enough and you haven't built up enough capital to move these markets, but you can give these markets out and sell them to other people. It's fucking bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. So I would advise never buy picks from anybody, and especially never buy picks in this situation. I mean, this is just a load of dog shit that they get spit out, and it's just, a bunch of propaganda against other top pros, propping oneself up so they can, so somebody can just keep selling, and keeping the con going. So anyhow, let me move on here. So the reason why I came up with this segment was, I got in a little altercation on Twitter this past week with Mr. Fezzik, and he blocked me. And not that I really care about it, but once he blocked me and he couldn't take the beating I gave him like a man, I said, all right, it's time to fucking cook this guy. He really needs to be cooked. I've kind of held my tongue against him for a while. I used to give him a lot of shit, but the last couple of years I've kind of laid off him a little bit. But now is the time to do a segment like this, and this podcast isn't that old, so maybe this will become a recurring thing where I just chop these guys up for the bullshit that they are. So I'll get to the tweets now, how this whole thing started. So he says, and I'll go back into these tweets after I do this whole segment so it doesn't sound kind of wonky here. 40-year-old pros who have been grinding betting pros for a decade look to get 53.5% bets and make a living. Magically, 24-year-olds that just entered the arena have all the answers and will make you tons of money because they're so good at this. Laughing my ass off, I replied, 24-year-olds that are good at this, they're not selling picks. They're hitting 55+% on sides and low 60s on props. He replies, laughing my ass off, no 40-year-old can hit 55% playing sides totals on game day with any volume. Yet these 24-year-olds with no experience are. Meanwhile, 30 to 50-plus guys with 30 years of winning experience aren't bothering printing 55% money and going to Sloan instead. LOL. And I think he posted that because I posted a picture of me and maybe 10 other pros at dinner. I went down there, had dinner for a couple nights with a lot of pro bettors and, some other guys that I've made friends with that aren't pro bettors. And, it seems like he's attacking for that reason. I'm going to address all these tweets in a second. So I replied, a lot of guys have people pressing buttons for them, which is a fact. Others go there to network so they don't have to release Hitman's plays from an overpriced Starbucks at 3 a.m. Now, after that, he blocked me. Tout 101. You get called out and it really hits you and it really stings, you got to put the block on because that is the fucking truth. I mean, this guy doesn't even release all his own bullshit plays. He goes to, somebody who actually does win betting. I'm not going to say probably. Someone who does win betting, Hitman. And I know pros that do buy his packages and they use his information because it's actually good. That Hitman will release a play and he will piggyback it and then release it at a worse line. And I don't know what he called it. He has some term for it, but I mean, that's like the scummiest of the scum. Like, you're taking somebody else's play who's a tout and then you're touting it yourself. Which is just like, I don't know what you call that, but anyone that would be a winning bettor. Imagine you think like you're a winning bettor, but you're doing shit like that and you're just selling it to make money. So anyhow, I'm going to get back and address these tweets real quick, get into a couple of other things before I move on to the next topic. So let's start at the beginning. Okay. 40-year-old pros who have been grinding betting pros for a decade look to get 53.5% bets and make a living. That's not true. The fact of the matter is, any pro that is a serious pro that bets with any volume is going to try and win 55+% on their bets. And they do. And if they're not, usually the reason is because they're going to try and hold as much of that information in until an hour before post or 15 minutes before post or whatever it is, 5 minutes before post, when the books will give much bigger and astronomical limits. And it'll actually help some account longevity if you're betting at post. And these guys will sacrifice to maybe they're getting out that 53.5%. But they're betting massive sums of money. But to think that the best bettors and the best groups in the world aren't hitting 55+% in a lot of these major markets, it's just fucking crazy. Like this, it's just crazy. I know because I see it every day. I work with these guys. Like the stuff that comes through the accounts that people give to me, I mean, people be able to vouch for that. Every college basketball total is smoked by 3 points, all the NBA stuff, it all wins. Halftime, second halves, absolutely murdered. NFL stuff, all won this past year. College football stuff, little rocky, but overall won this past year. College basketball started a little rocky, won overall this year. So I didn't have to offer to take anybody out for dinners because all the accounts that were given to me were all annihilated. So as a consumer out there, you have a choice. You can either try to get better by yourself and find that information, or you can give accounts to a group who could take those accounts and actually win money. And for the record, I've never had a losing football season. I've never had a losing season, and maybe have had like a losing, maybe 2 losing months, maybe 3 over the past 10 years in football. And the only times that happens for someone like me is because early season variance with uncertainty for some reason. Something's a little wonky. Numbers are off. But by the time somebody like me or a lot of these other groups that will start slow, when they get the data, they win because they figure out how to do it. They're in the trenches. They're working with numbers. And they actually have to execute to win for the people to keep the machine rolling because they're not selling picks. They don't have to do 40 podcasts a week to sell all these cons and pretend like they're a winning bettor, pretend like they're a pro bettor like Steve Fezzik does, which he 100% isn't. And you just listen to that Circles Off episode. Said he does not make enough money from betting to support his family, so he has to sell picks, which tells me he's not a high-level bettor because any high-level bettor would make enough money to support their family. That's just a fact. It's not that difficult to understand. So he says, magically, 24-year-olds that just entered the arena have all the answers, will make you tons of money because they are so good at this. The truth of the matter is 24-year-olds, and I'm not ashamed to admit this, a lot of 22, 23, 24, 21-year-olds that come into this are just much better than me when it comes to, certain types of modeling. Maybe they have a better education background than me. I have experience. I've known how to roll with the punches for years and evolve to keep myself a winning bettor, but I'm not a fool, and I could tell you my edge is eroding. Every year, my edge has gotten lower and lower, probably the last 5 years. Have I still won? Yes. I've also made more money, so a guy like me is able to get more down on specific plays that maybe I couldn't before because I've networked, I've put in the work. I don't have to go out there and con and sell picks and pretend like I'm some kind of, God handicapper. My results speak for themselves, and the people that work with me would vouch for that. And as far as like the 24-year-olds, like there's guys out there that crush. Like I think I've seen Fezzik get into it with Kirk Evans before. Kirk Evans would run circles around him when it comes to handicapping. Kirk Evans is one of the best NBA guys probably in the world right now, and you have Fezzik here talking about these guys, and this is probably like a soft reference to guys like this that he's gotten into it with on Twitter, because he has to save face, because he has to sell the con. He has to sell these picks because that's how he survives, and that's how he can afford to get whatever he gets down. 40K on shout out Purdue money line a couple of years ago. Nice pick, by the way. That's how a guy like him gets the money to have these type of bets and say, oh, I bet minus 3,000 on this. Well, yeah, because you got all that money selling picks. It wasn't from betting. So anyhow, let me see here. So covered that. Next tweet, he says, laugh my ass off. No 40-year-old can hit 55% playing sides totals on game day with any volume. That's false. 100% equivocally false. And the fact that you have been alienated from all the best bettors in the world since you turned tout back around whatever it was, 2009 or 2010, that you don't believe this is possible. But these guys are very sophisticated, and the guys, the biggest betting groups in the world, they're beating this stuff. If they're not hitting 55%, like I said before, it's because they're waiting and they're betting massive amounts. But by all means, if they wanted to hit that stuff earlier, they could. And the fact that they're not and they're waiting till later, there are other smaller groups out there that are picking those scraps early in the morning, and you're not one of them. That's a fact. So let me see here. And then let's get to this here. Meanwhile, the 30 to 50 guys with 30 years of winning experience aren't bothering printing 55% money and going to Sloan instead. LOL. Now, that's kind of a slap in the face. You don't think Spanky could hit 55%, or a guy like Rufus with his college basketball group if they wanted to? They probably don't, because they want to bet late. But I wouldn't be surprised if they hit that number or close to it. Or like Chicago Josh, like guarantee you over 55%. And all these guys, they're going to Sloan because they need to network. They need to meet people. They have friends that they go there and meet every year and have dinners with. And that's what you do. You go to these conferences as a pro bettor like myself. You go there, you network, you find guys that can help you, or maybe, you can help them in some which way. That's why people go there. And a lot of these guys, they have people pressing buttons for them, so they can't afford to go, and they can't afford to go and network because they don't have to sit and find the next pick to give away that has no value, So, that's just a fact. So I don't know. I think it's a slap in the face to the guys that do go to that conference. Like I said, it's all smoke and mirrors with this guy Fezzik. He will trash other people to prop himself up and make himself look good. But in actuality, he's just a clown, and he has to just keep selling and selling and selling and selling, or he's not going to be able to sell these subscriptions to keep the con alive, And so then I replied, I said, a lot of guys have people pressing the buttons for them. Others go there to network so they don't have to release Hitman's Place from an overpriced Starbucks at 3 a.m. Snap blocked, which is fine. I don't give a fuck. It's not like I have any sort of relationship with this guy, but he did reach out to me after I wrote a networking post that I would say was critically acclaimed, and I put that in quotes, among the sharp betting community. I got a lot of messages saying that my networking post was like one of the best posts that a lot of people have read, that that absorb this gambling content. There's not a lot of people that write this long form stuff, and I actually just went back, and I'm probably going to reference it in today's podcast, but he reached out, and of course, actually, I'm not going to say this. This would be over the top, but I'm not going to share, the DM that he sent me after that, but whatever, it is what it is. So yeah, he snap blocked me, and then I just said, you know what? Fuck this guy. It's his turn to get ripped apart, because he deserves it for, all the bullshit that he comes up with, all the shit that he talks about. He talks like everything's in fact, like he knows. But the bottom line, like I said before, he's not out there in the trenches every day. He's waiting for Westgate or whoever to, leave something hanging at 3 a.m., then release it. And then, somebody that fucking subscribes to his package wakes up at 8 in the morning and they're saying, wait a second, this is like 2 points off. Yeah, because the market already steamed. He threw it out there. And and that's it, and then maybe that goes on his record as a win, but nobody got it. It's similar to like the RAS plays. Not everybody's going to get that line. Like, I was a fool when I was younger. I used to think, and this is like going back to 2006, I would buy RAS, and I remember the market they'd release over 130. These lines would go to 138, and you click in, rejected. I was still betting this shit at 136, 135, just thinking they had the magic answer. Like, I didn't understand, like, whatever. I just thought these were like magic picks because I didn't fucking know, and that's how a lot of people are going to think when they see these touts records that are all fake. They're not real records. They're not lines that are widely available that you can get. Maybe it might be when it gets released, but if you have 50 clients that all click that bet, that fucking line's going to be gone before a lot of those guys get that bet. So just remember, there's a lot of scammers out there, and they have a lot of tactics. Spread the word not to buy picks from anybody. If you just avoid everybody, you'll be safe. You're better off just losing money on your own instead of giving it away. And then you're going to wonder why. Then you're probably going to start chasing, because a lot of problem gamblers are the guys that are buying the picks. So let me get back into this. So I got some notes here. Whoa, wow, I covered a lot of this stuff without referring back to it. But anyhow, another thing about Fezzik that has kind of rubbed me the wrong way is like the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame. Every year they release a lot of these new members, and a lot of these guys are odds makers or bookmakers, the guys that kept this industry alive and set the foundation for where we are today. Fezzik keeps asking, when are the bettors going to get in? When are the bettors going to get more bettors, as if he thinks he's going to be one of the guys that's going to get voted in one day. Like that's how it looks to me. But like, I can't really see a world where his after what I just read off to you, which is all fact, that, his peers would vote him into an exclusive company when, like I said, it's just all smoke and mirrors with this guy. And I think it's disrespectful to, the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame, and it's disrespectful to the guys that are getting put in that, laid the groundwork to keep this industry alive and to where it is today. But who knows? Maybe he will get in one day. I have no idea. I'm just speaking from, what I see and, all these facts that I just posted. So anyhow, let me see here. The last thing I want to close this with before I get into some of this other stuff is, guys like Fezzik who jump out, sell picks, or they get into creating content. They get this tunnel vision on the content. They get this tunnel vision on selling the picks. And the sports betting boom that I would say from like 26-17 to like 2022, which I was very fortunate to be a part of, and very fortunate that I started grinding my teeth in 2015, 2016, to try and be somebody that can actually live this fucking dream and hit a fucking heater at the right time, at the exact moment in time, and be ready for it when it came and just take it on. The fact that, guys like him are out there selling picks, a lot of these guys that, probably do have a pretty good IQ, that are pretty smart, they left probably many, many millions of dollars on the table to sell this dream to all these people that they're going to win the money when they can't win anybody money. It's just on a grand scale, tout for tout, they're not going to make you any money. So spread the word, stay away, retweet this podcast when I post it on Twitter, share it with whoever, and just make sure it gets out there. I've mentioned this before. My brother-in-law, who I went over there one day and he's like, yeah, this guy has an algorithm. He was referring to like Seablez or something. Yeah, this guy crushes. And I'm like, that guy doesn't win. Like, he's like, really? He said he has an algorithm and he's showing all these winners. it's crazy because they do this shit, and that's the con, and that's how they get people, and unsuspecting people will pay. So again, fuck touts, fuck Fezzik, fuck them all. Don't buy the picks. Spread the word to everybody you know. Do not buy picks. The only people that should be buying picks are top level pros that know that somebody has some type of information that they can actually use to manufacture on a grand scale. Or it should be, or data packages. Maybe there's a data package out there. But if you're some scrub better, and I say scrub with all due respect to you. I love everybody out there, but I was a scrub better once. When you start, you're a scrub until you work your way up. But like some scrub better isn't going to be able to take like some intricate data that they just bought or some data package or whatever from some site and be able to use it. Unless you know how to use it, it's probably a fucking waste. It's the same with these odd screens. And, shout out Spank Odds. By far, everybody that I talk to uses Spank Odds, and they say that it's the best. Now, I don't use an odd screen because, frankly, I don't need one for many reasons. But for the people that do use odd screens, it's usually the top high-level pros that know how to use them, know what they're looking for, etc. So they're useful to them, and that's why those type of tools and certain pieces of data are sold for, a large amount of money, because these guys that are using it are going to be able to recoup it, because these are the guys that are in the trenches that are making, 6, 7, maybe 8 figures a year. And, and that's just a fact. Like, that's just the way it is. So again, to end this segment, fuck touts, fuck Fezzik. Don't buy anything from any of these guys unless you know what you're doing and the information can be useful to you. So, moving on. Got a question from somebody who has given me accounts, and they said, well, I haven't seen a lot of March Madness go into these accounts. And the fact of the matter is, at this point in the season, the edges are just getting smaller and smaller every day. So, like, again, if there's a tout out there that's selling you March Madness packages, this and that, it's probably fucking bullshit. There are some high-level groups that are still betting, that are still winning, but they'll even tell you their edges are drying up. And the guy that I deal with, who does most of the college basketball stuff, he's beating closers by 3 and 4 points all year long, But when these conference tournaments start kicking off, that's when his volume goes to pretty much zero, and nothing's really going to get bet, because the guys that handicap games for him that he uses, or however he's getting his information into the market, he knows that it's dog shit. So he's already done with that. He's on to college baseball, or he's on to just beating up props, which him and his group are one of the best out in the world at doing that. So yeah, there's not going to be a lot of March Madness going into certain accounts because it just doesn't make sense. The edge isn't there. Guy Dan Lifshatz, who gives picks out on Twitter all year long, and and you don't see this often from people that give out picks. Usually, people that give out picks are just like, they just keep going and going and going because they have to sell something. They have to sell a con. But like Dan, who isn't selling anything money wise, he basically told all the people that follow him, I'm not giving out any more picks this year because, there's no edge. And that's the fucking truth for a lot of people. The edge is fucking gone at this time of year. So, beware of that. It's March Madness, whatever. It's fucking boring madness to me. Oh, the first day of the tournament, it's fucking so good. Yeah, it was good when I was like 18 and I didn't know what I was doing. And these games meant a lot to me. And I got to go out and get fucking wasted and just watch these games all day. Then it's great. But now it's like, it's like, there's no difference with the first, second day of March Madness to me than the middle of the season. It's not. I don't get up for it anymore. Maybe you do. Some people think it's the greatest time of the year, but just give me college football week 8 over March Madness any day of the week. Give me college football over anything, over the Super Bowl. Week 9, that's my jam. I just like to watch college football. To each their own, but that's my opinion on March Madness. So now I'm going to jump into some other things really quick here. And this is going to be pertain to people that are getting into the betting space that want to grow and want to get bigger and are maybe suffering some variance and They can get set back. Money can be tight. I'm telling you right now, monitor your finances every week, up and down. You got to monitor, the last week I got a quote on my insurance. It was a few weeks ago. I got a quote on my insurance. My insurance guy was telling me for years, and this is a family member, was telling me for years, nope, this is the best we can do, best we can do, best we can do. And I'm just like, whatever, It's gonna, I didn't never shopped around, and I just kept with it. And then his insurance company got bought, and now he's with another insurance company that shops around. And now magically they shopped around for me, and I'm saving $3,000 a year. So look into that shit. I mean, $3,000 a year is a lot. Like, especially when you're coming up and you don't have a lot of money, and that could really mean a lot to you. Monitor that shit. All your insurance, car insurance, home insurance. Look into it all. Your cell phone. I remember about 10 years ago, my mentor in all of gambling just told me, he's like, what the fuck are you doing with Verizon? T-Mobile. It works in every city. It's the best. Maybe if you're in fucking the middle of Iowa in some cornfield, maybe the Verizon comes in, but most people aren't in that situation. And like T-Mobile, yeah, works just as good in all the major cities. They're putting towers up everywhere. I was just in the Bahamas. The T-Mobile, great, works great. You get Netflix, you get Apple in there, you get Hulu in there. It's all included. MLB package, all included. And you're probably paying the same price. Get phones every year. I get phones. It's kind of built into it, but for a couple $100 a year, a couple $100 a month for 3 lines for all that I just said, that's fucking incredible. And that could mean a lot. And it did mean a lot to me back then. 10 years ago, or a little over 10 years ago when I switched 12 years ago, I was a poker pro. I was getting by. I was in the fight. I didn't have a lot of money. And that meant a lot to me. That could mean the difference between, taking a family, taking a vacation, not taking a vacation, maybe going out to eat a little bit more, or whatever it may be. When you're coming up in this, you need to save every nickel and dime, because you never know which way it's going to turn. And, it can get difficult. So, it's always good to plug those leaks, and it's easy to acquire those leaks as you get a lot of money, or, you acquire a good amount of money as you move along and you get more successful. So it's good to look back on them. I mean, I looked back on like useless recurring charges at one point. And there was like a Beachbody membership my wife had from years ago. And I didn't notice this, but they had been charging for like 2 fucking years. And we weren't even subscribed. She canceled years ago, and it just started popping up month. And they reimbursed us some on that. But they didn't give it all back, and, whatever. I know somebody that had a gym membership. They had it for 15 years. You know how many times they went to the gym? 0. They were paying $30 a month. $360 a year times 15, you're looking at $5,000 plus there. That's not a good place to be, especially when you don't have a lot of money. But a lot of people just let this shit go and they don't look at it. So always look over your finances, especially like these little things can compound and get bigger. I mean, imagine you take that $5,000, put it into the stock market or whatever. But, I'm just saying, this stuff does add up. Another thing, the dream is always to buy a house. People buy houses. Repairs are a shitload. Or if you buy a brand new condo or whatever it is, if you buy something brand new, usually within 7 to 8 years, shit starts breaking down. And it'll all start going at once in phases. Boom, boom, boom. We had like our AC go. We had our heater go. Luckily haven't really had any appliances go here yet. But last week had a huge pine tree come down in a windstorm. Had a plow take out my mailbox. I had a custom granite mailbox with flower boxes on it, custom engraving on it. Fucking plow guy just took the thing out. So shit gets expensive. Got to replace that. I had the fence replaced. The tree hit my shed as well. My shed is built like a brand new house from a top of the line, company that builds sheds, Reed's Ferry, very good company here in New England. And, now I have to, I patched it up myself, but I have to get that repaired, because if I don't repair it, it's going to fucking cost me much more down the line when something else, and when water gets in or whatever happens. So, shit gets fucking expensive. You buy a house, be ready to take those expenses on, and you might have to dip into your sports betting bankroll to do it. So That's very important stuff. And, you know, a lot of people don't think of it, and people that have a lot of money, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, it's not really about the money. It's about these companies fucking you over, because they will fuck you over. A lot of this shit with the recurring charges, they don't care, and they shouldn't care. That's their business. You don't cancel, then they'll just keep fucking charging you. So whatever. And they're not going to go shopping around for you, but, you know, that's just how it goes. So another thing I want to touch on today is sweep through your gambling accounts and see what's in there, or any type of account. You know, I found some money. They used to have these Visa cards where, you know, you'd cash out directly to these, like your Bitcoin address to this Visa account. This was like 10, 12 years ago. And, you know, the money was in there. And for some reason, I could only take out so much at a time. And maybe there was like $1,000 left in there. And I forgot about it. Had no idea it was in there until I had to go back. I don't know why I went back and looked at this card again. But I look at this card and I see a bunch of money in there. I checked the transactions. They were docking me like $10 a month for having money in there and being inactive. Some of your gambling accounts might just start deducting money because they're dormant. I've heard of poker sites like that. They'll just ping you for $5 a month if you've been inactive, because they're just holding the money for you. Sweep through, see what you can find, because you never know. I had a bank safe where, at a bank where, you know, I had a lot of money in there, and I took a lot of money out because I was betting a lot live that year at kiosks, etc. And, you know, I had another safe somewhere else, another bank safe, and, you know, I had put everything into safe number 2, safe number 1. I went back there to close it out. Thought I had nothing in there. I found 10K in there with a wrap from the casino up the street. Totally forgot about it. So, you know, as you get busier and, you know, you got, you know, 50 Telegram messages going on, you know, all this shit going on in your life, it's easy to lose track of that stuff. So just try and keep notes, look into everything, and, you know, you won't lose that type of, you know, you could potentially lose money that way. Maybe your safe gets closed. They take, you know, I don't know, maybe you wind up on Storage Wars or something like that. But anyhow, you know, another time I had like 3K in a coat pocket. This is back in like the early 2000s, back when Fezzik was winning at betting. So I had like $3,000 in a coat pocket with my friend's name addressed. This is when I was an agent for a bookie back then. This was, you know, 20 years ago, and had his name addressed on it. And I don't know why, but the envelope never got to him. Maybe like we played a game of cards, he lost it one night to me, or maybe he lost the next week, and he, you know, then, which made him even. Somehow the money just stayed in my coat until like I moved out of this apartment, or I picked up the coat one day and I felt something in there, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Counted it up. There was a few grand in there. I was like, whoa, it was like I hit the fucking lottery. I was dead broke then. And it felt great to find it. But again, if you don't keep track of the stuff, you can lose it. I mean, another good example is, you know, Rufus once left a shitload of tickets in like a backpack from somewhere in Atlantic City. I remember this story. It was like 50 or 80K. And once those tickets expire, there's nothing you can do about it, unless, you know, maybe if you're friendly with someone at the casino, you know, maybe someone like Jeff Benson might be able to help you out if you're friendly with him, and, you know, whatever, maybe they can get it done. But oftentimes that stuff just gets liquidated and gets donated to specific charities around the state. Now, what else here? What do we got? You know, another thing you want to do is always double check math. If you're doing figures with someone, you never know. You put an extra 0 on the end. There's some shady scumbags out there that will, you know, if you owe them like 810, and you know, maybe you accidentally post 8100, and maybe you're doing larger figures with this person every week, or, you know, something like that. Not that exact example, but, you know, something where you know, maybe it's 210, but you put like 2100. Someone might not say something back to you. So double check your math, make sure it's good, because again, you could make mistakes. Punching something into a computer that does your math for you. You could make a mistake that way. So be fucking careful, because people will screw you. You know, another thing, going back to that, that thing when you have no money, time permitting, let's say you have a Costco or a BJ's membership or something like that, clip the fucking coupons, yeah, people say you waste time clipping coupons, but instead of like scrolling through reels and Twitter videos while you're taking a shit, fucking bring the coupon book in there with the scissors and clip. You might save $20 while you're taking a shit. How about that? Let's see here. Guy DM'd me yesterday about, let me see here. Hold on. Yeah, shady sites. So shady sites always get the money out as fast as you can. Like what I'm doing with Fliff right now. Fliff, they keep making all these changes. So the first of the month, I get like 3 alerts on my phone. I cash the $5K out that they can give me until they pay me off. A guy DM'd me saying someplace in New Jersey, I think it was Tipico or something, he got a message, he had to cash out, some shit went on, he avoided it for a little while, they left the market, they went to fucking Europe or something, now he can't get the money out. And, I gave him a bunch of strategies on how to get it back. Social media, contact gaming, pound them on social media, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you can get it. But the bottom line is, if you do not cash that money out, it isn't yours until you get it. And when they leave, now you're left with a clusterfuck. So you have to keep up with this stuff. Set the alerts on your phone. Deal with it, or you put yourself at risk. Don't have a lax attitude. And like that usually happens when people start making money and become successful. They get a lax attitude in a lot of areas. Some reasons it's because they're just too fucking busy and they just keep churning and churning and churning and churning. So, yeah. You got to keep up with this shit. Here's another thing. There's a guy I was staking in poker during the pandemic to maybe make some extra money. He owes me like $15K right now, from actual loans, not from the poker. He lost playing poker, but he was losing playing poker. He had no money. I felt bad. I was in a decent situation at the time. Loaned him about $15K. And I still talk to him like monthly. Hasn't sent me $10, so that reminds me, I'm going to get on top of that. And get people, if people owe you money for whatever reason, remember, it's a fucking negative free roll to loan money. It is a total negative free roll. I just did that one out of the kindness of my heart, but if you do it out of the kindness of your heart, people are going to think you're a sucker, and they're going to keep coming after you to borrow money over and over and over and over again. And this guy actually did I told him, this is the last time I'm giving you money, which brought it to like 14 or 15K, and then he tried to borrow more money again, and I was just like, fuck this. This is it. Done. I've probably been approached over the past, 7 or 8 years to borrow or invest in like $500,000 worth of business ventures, building houses, buying a bar, fucking, all kinds of bullshit. I need this for this reason, but I'm going to get it back in 3 weeks. And it's just a fucking negative free roll. And I always shit on the athletes that fucking go broke because they trust someone with their money and they start investing in all this shit. They've made $200 million, $100 million, but they're investing in all this fucking crap, and then they just go broke. And I always laughed at those guys. It's just because you have that much money, why the fuck do you do it? But then I'm over here doing this. I don't do it on that scale, but even one little thing like this, it sucks, but whatever. You got to keep up with these people, get a payment plan, and try and get them to stick to it. Another guy somehow, and I'm going to do a podcast on this one, somehow he owed me $50K from a series of events, and he wound up paying me back. He made good on it this past season. But whatever, that's just what happens when you get into this business and you're doing deals, on handshake deals or whatever it is, week to week, month to month. You're carrying this, you're carrying that, and before you know, you just don't know what the other guy is doing. And then you find out, like, this guy's a fucking horse racing degenerate. Fuck, I didn't think that. Like, and it'll be an interesting story when I do this podcast one day. Other thing, taxes. If you're filing as a pro, find out all the stuff you can and can't write off. Look deep into this. Talk to multiple people. Do lots of research. Maybe contact attorneys. I wouldn't go with, any of these H&R Blocks or these corporate places. You want to find a good, gritty local guy that has dealt with all different types of people day in, day out, who knows what the fuck he's doing, or no, she knows what the fuck she's doing, whichever one it is. So, figure that out, because there's stuff that can't go by. Even the first couple of years of, my tax guy will miss something once in a while, and then we have to rectify it or whatever. But look into that, because it's very important, especially if you're filing as a pro. And if you are a pro and you're not filing, you probably fucking should, because, if that shit adds up enough over a period of time, you could get fucked. And that's for pro gamblers, not, these pick sellers, because I don't think they can, I don't know if they can, they can't file as pro gamblers, because they're just not pro gamblers, because they have to make money selling picks. Let's get back to this here. So yeah, I've talked about this before, but something came up this past week where I just ate it. You just got to be careful. You're dealing with all kinds of different people. Not everyone's easy to work with. People are going through different things mentally, different things in their life. They could snap this way, snap that way one day. You just never know what you're going to walk into in this business. So you gotta just kind of take a deep breath before you to respond to somebody, because you could throw away a good relationship by just snapping off and being and just saying something the wrong way. Someone takes it wrong and whatever. Other thing. Actually, I'm going to have to break this up into 2 segments. We're coming on an hour here. I'm going to wrap this up next week now. So I got a lot of different topics I have to get to, and I'm not going to have this go 2 hours. So I'm going to finish these last few things. I'll get to that stuff next week, and then we'll get to it. Shitty accounts bring shitty results, and they're inconsistent. So someone brings me a Buckeye account and says, hey, there's an $800 limit on here. And then they don't wonder why, why isn't this printing thousands of dollars? Well, Buckeye's not a great account. $800 isn't a good limit. And if I'm not betting it and I give it to someone else, well, what the fuck? Then you're just not going to see a lot of action going into there. That's going to be one of the last accounts that gets bet on a pro better side. And a lot of people feel that way about metallics. Now, I beat metallics, and when I don't beat metallics, and that's one of my specialties, I can beat player props at post pretty good in the fall. And some people they can't. They just rely on steam, and that stuff will already be the metallics have probably already moved. But if I can't beat the metallics, I know people who can. So that's one of my specialties right there. But again, these shitty accounts, the lack of volume, you're not going to see your true win rate. Markets are missing on a lot of these shitty accounts. They're just not there. And you're only getting these major markets that are, no one really has a great incentive to beat when these little limits. I'm not saying you got to get accounts with 100K limits, but like somebody betting into like a 3K account with $500 limits or $300 limits is a lot different than, you hand over an $800 limit with $100 bets. Just not a great spot. Always pay yourself last. Doesn't matter what happens. You make a lot of money, pay yourself last. You only get some from a bookie. You got to always pay out first, especially if you're just starting, because you don't want to kill these relationships. You got to show an ability to pay to all your partners. So your portion should always come last, never first. And that goes back to, if you're starting out, you've got to budget your money and have it, because you're going to get stiffed. You're going to have to pay people. And, you're going to be left the shit end of the stick sometimes. That's why I try to do my best and try to tell people that I work with, you got to get paid, because these originators that if I'm working with originators, they want their cut no matter what, so that's just the way that goes. Let me see here. Yeah, just never put yourself in a position to owe. Just like I just went over that there. Yeah, makeup deals. Sometimes you got makeup deals with people. You get big. You got runners going out there doing all kinds of shit. Sometimes that has to get adjusted, because these guys are getting crushed. They want to get paid, but you don't want to lose good runners. So sometimes you got to be creative and be like, all right, we're going to put this makeup on hold, and we'll chop it off as we win it all back, and then maybe you can save your runners that way. Don't try to be the tough guy, like, oh no, fucking, we're gonna win it all back first before you see a dime. Sometimes you gotta get creative and to keep these guys around. Otherwise, you're gonna be looking to find other guys, and good runners don't grow on trees. Scammers do; they grow on trees. So there's a lot of those out there, and you'd rather work with a guy that you know than a fucking scammer. They're a dime a dozen. Other thing someone messaged me about yesterday, he was multi-accounting, and I'm not suggesting anyone do this, but it seems like he was caught multi-accounting from, either using the same Bitcoin address or the same Bitcoin account or something like that. Well, something somebody told me a long time ago was never send it directly to your like Coinbase or your Kraken or whatever account if you're using it to cash out. Always use an intermediate wallet. So send it to, something in the middle before it goes to Coinbase or whatever. So it kind of gets, it just gives it another layer where it's not just going to the same spot. Because I think I remember people were getting kicked off Coinbase because they could track where it was coming from. I don't know exactly how this went down, but somehow these transactions were tracked. So you always should use, like a Trezor or some type of device before it goes to where you're going to cash it out. That's all I got for this week. We hit an hour, and I probably have another hour of content, and I will finish this next week. Again, fuck touts, fuck scammers, don't give them a fucking dime, and just remember, I was at the fucking lowest point in my life when I started doing this in 2009, when I started playing poker. The absolute lowest, bottom of the barrel, 32 years old, lowest credit score you can get, on drugs, drinking 2-3 nights a week, massive binges, and somehow I fucking turned it around, made something of myself, have a family, have a house, own cars. I'm doing well, and you can do well too. You just have to fucking stick your nose to the grindstone and just focus on the task. Spartan, 6 o'clock, straight up and down, head on a swivel. You do that and you'll be fucking successful. Just keep your head in the game. Anyone can do good at this. You don't have to fucking go tout. You don't have to get the magic picks. Just fucking work hard, look for the information, network, go to BetBash, and just find like-minded people, and you can get it done. Have a good week.